What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over the complete cost breakdown of the truck bed camper build. And at the end of the video, we're also going to be answering the burning question of how much does it weigh. So let's get right to it. Alrighty guys, so what I did was just create a little slideshow for you here. I thought that was the easiest way to kind of lay everything out. First, we're going to have our bulk aluminum cost. So this is what I spent on all of the aluminum material, and that would be about $1763.94. Depending on where you live and what the metal market is currently looking like, this can obviously vary slightly. So don't take this as a for sure number when you go to do your own build. Getting into the laser cut and bent parts. So Sen Cut Sen, which I have referenced in many of my videos. I use them for a ton of the parts that I've used on this build, and they have been really awesome, have saved me a lot of time and effort, and also just make this project come out to be much more professional, having some professionally laser cut and bent parts to put on it. So the main frame reinforcements, all those little gussets that I put around, come to be about $70.32. The overhang supports, those are about $56.98. The bed mounts, this is what mounts the camper to the truck bed itself, about $88.38. And then miscellaneous other mounting brackets and gussets and all that good stuff, about $93.96. So another part of this cost that you may not have that I had is my rear door latch. So in my videos, I showed you I custom designed my own rear door latch loosely based off of the Alucab latch. That was all made out of 316 stainless, which is actually some pretty expensive material. So all those little bits and pieces that I got cut out ended up being about $209.03. And then of course our awning brackets, which are made of mild steel. In hindsight, I wish I would have just done those in stainless. Even in mild steel, they still came to be pretty pricey at $158.46. So total, I spent about $677.13 on subbing out some laser cut and bent parts with Sen Cut Sen. Next up is the rivets. So if you guys have watched the video, you'll know that there was a ton of rivets that went into this project, and my total cost of rivets is probably $87.67 thereabout. It's just based on my Amazon orders and what I've tried to keep track of. And just a little fun fact for you guys, I counted them and I used just under 1,000 rivets, and I did that as kind of like a loose number just in case I miscounted in a few areas, but it really was almost 1,000 rivets, and do recommend getting a Milwaukee rivet gun for this project if you plan to use rivets as much as I did. Next is a subject you guys may not really consider, and that is fabrication consumables. So this is stuff that you need to buy and to have just to complete the fabrication process. So that's blades, welding gas, drill bits, you know, just various different things. And this stuff actually ends up adding up in the end quite a bit. So it ends up being a good portion of your cost. And I think our total right around $358.92. Of course, that's pretty loose considering I already had drill bits and just some other random stuff. But that is just a total of the things that I had bought during the duration of this project that were used towards it. So expect somewhere around this price range. And of course, maybe you already have a lot of this stuff on hand, so you don't have to go back and spend as much money in this category as I have. So next up, we have a main structure, all fabricated. This does not include, you know, the tent fabric or anything of that nature. I just want to show you guys where we stand at this point as far as cost goes. This is just for purely for fabricating the structure and just kind of the general shape of the camper without all the details. We're at about $27,29.20. So we're still coming in way under most retail campers, still in the range of a rooftop tent. Some rooftop tents are even retail for close to $4,000 to $5,000. So we still have a bit of our budget left before we're reaching those categories of what you'd spend to buy your own camper fabricated by somebody else. This next subject, we are coating. So powder coat, I spent about $1,200. This is obviously going to vary depending on where you're located and how much your powder coater is going to charge. Some of the other paint I used was Steel It, and you guys know I use Steel It on a lot of projects, and you could even coat this whole project in Steel It if you'd like, or even just some regular Krylon or Leave It Bare. That's the cost that I spent when it came to coating the camper. Finishing out our interior, you saw I had used that marine carpet, and then we used some liquid nails, fuse it to adhere. That was about 6 canisters of the liquid nails, comes out to about $100. And then of course the marine carpet off Amazon, which isn't very expensive. I still have plenty of leftover, and I think it's a really nice touch to the build. Of course, some of you guys may choose to do insulation or just kind of your own route when it comes to this stuff. I just wanted to show you what I spent on that. So about $386.14, and this turns out to be an optional thing for you. As far as sealants goes, we did Sikaflex 221, about 6108. I want to say I used 4 or 5 cans of that as well. Really great sealant. I used it on the micro camper build, and I really do trust it to seal up and keep water out. I did have a subscriber recommend a sealant at one point in one of my comments that I cannot find now, but apparently you can powder coat with the sealant applied. If you're watching this video, please comment and remind me because I totally forgot. Then of course some painter's tape to get those nice clean lines. Hardware, so this is going down to, you know, just random bolts and nuts and washers. Obviously we did all stainless hardware for the awning mount brackets, for the bed mounts, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of hardware, but in the end it really does add up. So local hardware stores obviously normally jack up prices of hardware. Amazon did have some pretty good deals on bulk hardware, and that's the route I went. And this is a rough number, 201.46. That's just from the receipts that I added up. It could be more, it could be less, and you could still have some stuff laying around in the garage that you could utilize. So our gas struts for our lid are from Lift Support Depot. I did not cheap out on those. I wanted some quality struts for up top that I was not going to have to worry about failing on me. Those are 223.24. That was for 4 struts and all the hardware that I needed for those struts. So definitely a good little chunk of change there. And then our hatch door struts were just from Amazon, which are very relatively cheap, and they have many different options. If you guys are looking for parts and all that stuff, I have it all linked in the description of all my build series videos. So if you go to the build series and you want a part that's in that video, look at the description. 9 times out of 10 I have it linked there, unless I had forgotten. Total for that, about $273.76. Another cost that you may not consider is the latches and hinges. So all these little mechanisms and stuff really kind of add up. Our side door hinges, which are just aluminum piano hinges from Amazon. We got our side door latches, our lift mechanism lock bolts, which is a cool little feature to lock our hinges open. The lid latches, which hold the roof of our lid down. The latches I chose to use are some ones that other companies very commonly use when they're building and selling campers, and they've been working great. They're adjustable and they're easily replaced, which is another thing. I don't want to buy some one-off latch that I'm going to have trouble replacing a few years from now. Our rear door hinges, I went a little overkill on those, probably more than I needed, but I did not want to have any issues having our spare tire mounted to the door. So almost 50 bucks just in those hinges alone. There may be some better options out there. Those are just the ones I chose to use. The toggle clamp to hold our rear door shut, that is a pack of 2. It's about 40 bucks. So I only ended up using one of those, and you can always use the other one for a future project. Total on that be about $376.90. So this is all of our seals. This is what's sealing our back door, our side door hatches, and sealing our lid. Total for that stuff's about $177.92. Fabric and materials, I was lucky enough to work with Ripstop by the roll, so they sent me the fabric, but I did have to buy Velcro and thread and the sewing machine and all the other random stuff. This is just showing you my totals on what I use. So the no-seam mesh was about 4 yards at $4.25 a yard, and then 12 yards of the other 2 materials because I had a dual layer fabric. And you can see I have our pricing there, but overall about $387.17, and that is with the thread, the Velcro, the fabric, the shot cord to suck the fabric in, basting tape, and all that good stuff. So overall, really not too costly if you're doing the work yourself. So now at this point, we have a functioning camper. You can go out and camp in it. It doesn't have any extras or anything like that, but it's usable and it could totally fine the way it is. You don't have to spend any more money at this point, and you can just enjoy your camper and take it out there and use it. So what are we at cost-wise? $57.93.63. So I know that may seem like a lot if you're comparing to like a Go Fast camper, but you have to keep in mind we also did powder coating in the carpet liner. So if you minus the powder coating and you get rid of that carpet liner, we're out down to about a $42.07.49. So this is roughly probably half the cost of your regular run-of-the-mill camper if you're going for the cheaper line. Now if you're comparing this to like an Alucab canopy camper, $42.07.49, we're at probably a third of the price. Obviously with not all the same features, but you can choose to add those as you go or as you use the camper and see what you see fit in adding. So now your next question is, where can I save money? So buying in bulk for the material is obviously the best way to save money. If you're buying just little pieces of aluminum or little pieces of this, little piece of that, you're going to end up paying a ton. If you just buy in bulk, I believe where I was buying from, there's about 16 foot or 21 foot sections of material that I'd have to go cut and pick up and transport back home. So that's really the best way to save money on aluminum. And even then you saw I still spent about $1,700. Repurposing some materials from past projects. So if you already have some stuff laying around in the garage, try to find a way to utilize that in your project. It can end up saving you a ton of money, especially just little knick-knack things here or there. If you have some latches laying around that didn't quite work out on last projects, skip the laser cut parts is another option. You don't have to do laser cut parts from Sencut Sen. You saw I spent almost $700, I believe, on laser cut parts alone. So you could save quite a bit of money not doing that and just kind of either cutting and bending your own stuff in the garage. Remember, not everything has to look 100% professional quality. It's all about just having fun and making your own project, and you can save some money in places where you can. As far as the fabrication consumables go with Harbor Freight, they have great prices on sandpaper and drill bits and all that good stuff, and a lot cheaper than buying from Lowe's or your local hardware store. I know it's some China-made stuff and all that. If you want to support local, go for it. But if you're looking to save some money, Harbor Freight's got some good stuff for you. Painting the camper, I lightly touched base on this earlier. Powder coat, you know, that's a pretty expensive operation to do, and it varies by state and location. So you could even leave this raw aluminum, maybe clear coat it or do something of that nature. I do recommend coating it at least. So you could do a spray paint or whatever you'd like, but you could definitely save some money maybe painting it yourself. Gas struts I mentioned were a little pricey, but I wanted to have quality units on there. So you can just go with some Amazon ones. If one fails, you could normally prime ship and have one very quickly. That's just something that will be up to your discretion, but these are just some areas that I just kind of picked out that you can definitely save money on your own build, and you could probably come out even cheaper than the listed price that you saw in the last slide. This is for the rear build out on the camper, so this is totally separate from it. This is basically just an add-on and just for my convenience. Aluminum I had left over, so it's really not factored into this part. You can just kind of cut that out of the price that I spent to build the camper itself. Z-bar, this is a great example about buying in bulk. That Z-bar was just like a 72-inch piece of aluminum, and I spent 42 bucks on it, but it was a very specific piece, and I used it to make specific little brackets. Buying in longer bulk version of that, I probably could have spent 42 and got 21 feet of it, but I didn't need 21 feet of it. So that's where you end up spending a lot of money when you don't buy in bulk. Rivets were all kind of left over from there, steelets left over, and then just some like hinges and the struts, more Sencut Sen brackets, just stuff like that. That really kind of has it adding up here at the end. And of course our table mount, the composite panels, and then stuff to finish out our wood, stuff to mount it to the truck itself. For the flooring in the camper, I chose to just do a rubber bed mat. I'm a very utility based person. I don't want my builds or what I have to be too nice for me to feel like I can't put up some firewood in the bed of the truck. So a bed mat was good for me. Total on that was about $792.56. A lot cheaper than buying a pre-made build out. Definitely takes some work, and depending on what you value your time at, it could be worth it to buy an already pre-made one. And of course, you guys know me, I just like to build stuff myself. Now this is going into our add-ons. This is where the price can start to skyrocket exponentially. Obviously, there are much cheaper options than some of the stuff you see here on this page. And you know, and if it's not in your price range, don't feel like your build's going to be any lesser than anybody else's. I have only decided to spend the money on these things just because I have tested and used other products, and for my personal use, I just wanted something that I knew was going to be extremely durable. I knew it was going to last for years. I knew they sell replacement parts for, and something that I could take care of and, you know, potentially use this camper and these accessories for many, many years to come. So that's up to your discretion, and you can always add this stuff as you go. You don't have to do it right off the bat. You could save up, buy some of this stuff later down the road as you find you need it. One thing I do recommend out of this list to definitely add is the Max Air Fan. Having the fan in there, I think, is something you should not compromise on, and definitely have that in your camper because it makes a big difference having some fresh air flowing into there. Here we're going to cover just some sewing tools. So this is stuff I needed to complete the sewing portion of the project. This is all stuff I purchased from Ripstop by the roll. Here, I definitely recommend those Wonder Clips you see there. Those were a lifesaver, and I used them pretty much the entire time. That little stuff obviously adds up as well. $380, $370. So if you don't already have this stuff on hand, you can kind of plan on having to spend roughly this much to get there. As far as the Singer sewing machine, the 4411, $189.75 is a great price to get introduced into a hobby. It's honestly kind of unbelievable that you could spend that little amount of money and have the capability to build what we built as far as the canvas goes. So don't be intimidated by the sewing. I have that whole video on the project, and it's really not too bad to do. And you can learn just about anything by watching a few YouTube videos. Here's a slide, and this is just some tools that really made my life easier during this build. Miter saw with the Steel Demon blade for cutting the aluminum. You can make some angled cuts like 45 degrees and do them quickly. The bandsaw that you guys may have seen in some other videos is great for cutting bigger pieces accurately it's just very, very slow. So having a miter saw where I can make some quick cuts through aluminum, that was huge and probably saved me hours of time versus just using that bandsaw. The rivet gun, touching back on the fact that we used almost 1,000 rivets, and honestly it was probably over 1,000 if you consider some of the things that I had to go back and redo. So definitely looking to get that Milwaukee rivet gun or any sort of pneumatic rivet gun or battery rivet gun, whatever you got, definitely get one. Unless you want to use the manual one, it would be a great workout to do almost 1,000 rivets. Really save some headache just having that electronic tool there. The fixture and welding table is definitely not necessary. It was just really beneficial to use while I was doing my hinge system for my roof and just other little simple brackets that I really needed to be square or precise. Table saw, now that mainly comes in to when we were doing the composite faces for our rear build out. Being able to just knock off just a little bit at a time until it fit perfectly, or even just making sure that our bench tops were the right size, a table saw really shined in that category. Obviously, if you're not doing a rear build out, don't worry about a table saw. You're probably not going to use it just to make the camper. Because aluminum is not magnetic, I had to really get creative with bar clamps and any other sort of clamps just to hold things still while I did a tack weld or just got it ready to go. So definitely invest in some clamps. I got like a 72-inch one, I think, off Amazon, and then some other like 48-inch ones. And when it came to doing the feet on the bottom of the camper and holding everything straight, that really was a lifesaver. I don't think without these clamps it would have been nearly as square or nearly as neat in the end. All right, so this is the burning question that everybody has when you do a project like this, and they want to know how much this thing's going to weigh and what to expect and how they can compare it to other builds out there. A lot of places have their weight published on their websites. A DIY one, you might think, oh, mine's going to end up being a lot heavier. It's not worth it. It actually may surprise you how light it could end up being. So this does include the carpeting, the bed extension, the windows, the latches, and the hinges, but it does not include the spare tire mount, the spare tire, the fold down table, or the interior build. So this is pretty much just the camper itself with the rear wall and the door and all that good stuff. Comes in to about 413 pounds or 187 kilograms. So I want to say the Alucab is advertised as 500 something pounds dry. So we did come in a little lighter than theirs. We are obviously heavier than a Go Fast camper, which is to be expected. Their campers are very light and versatile and designed to be as light as possible. So we're heavier than something like that, but we also have some more usable living space than something like that. Another topic when it comes to weight is I shed the tailgate off the truck as well as my metal swing out. So I lost probably over 100 pounds of weight just removing that stuff. So if you minus that from our total camper weight, we're probably close to 300 or so pounds over what we used to be, because we used to have a camper shell and all that good stuff on there, which did add quite a bit of weight. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If there's anything you feel I left out, please comment below and ask, and I'll answer it to the best of my ability. You'll notice I did not add electrical system into that cost factor, and that's because I'm still working on it. I just really wanted to get the main cost of the structure and everything out for you guys, as well as the weight of the camper. So that's something I'm glad I can answer for you guys, and I hope that this does not discourage you in building your own. I know it can seem a little pricey, but if you're doing this over the course of a year or so, and you can just kind of save money and chip away at it, in the end, it's much cheaper, at least in your mind, than doing a complete bulk purchase up front for a camper. Like I mentioned, we came in at probably a third of the price as somebody would spend on an Alucab canopy camper if you're not factoring in any sort of add-ons or anything like that. So really something to consider when you're going to build your own. This will not be the last video on this camper. Of course, I'm still going to do an electrical system and maybe some other odds and ends and another walkthrough and stuff like that. Just whatever I feel like I'm going to add to it in the end. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.